Open Slovenia. Half a year ago, we started seeing this kind of titles in our newspapers. Slovenians are running abroad, students are living. A lot of titles like that. And I was, of course, reading all this, and I was thinking, like, what's my opinion about that? And all I could muster in my head was, welcome to 21st century. Of course, I mean, what else have we expected? We are the generation of EasyJet, generation of Erasmus, and generation of Euro. Of course, we will go wherever the opportunities are, and if they aren't here, we'll go somewhere else, and we'll not forget about the country, but still, we'll travel. And of course, reading those articles, there was a lot about Stara Pravda, like, why can't we go back to the old times where everybody was studying at home and maybe went to Ljubljana, but at worst, they stayed in Ljubljana, otherwise they came back to our village. But what if staying at home was an anomaly? What if those times are not coming back even if we improve our economy? What if people now are simply going wherever the opportunities are? I think that brain circulation is the new norm. We will go, young people, old people, wherever we are needed, wherever we can make the most difference in the world. And the only question for Slovenia as a country, as a nation, is how do we adapt to this new trend? And I believe that the only way to adapt is to think ourselves not just about source of people going abroad, but also becoming a destination. Destination that will make it easy for smart people from all around the world to come, live here and work here and enrich our culture. And my theory is that creating this kind of environment will also help all those that went to study abroad to make it easier to return. And you might say, like, but you know, we have bigger problems right now, like solving the economic crisis. That last point is yesterday's data. And I would say, yes, we have bigger problems because we lacked for 20 years any sensible opening up strategy. So we might also as well start with the root cause. And we should start removing friction from our bureaucracy, language adaptation, and in our culture, so it will make it easy for people to come and live here. So we have a company called Zemanta. It's an international company. And in 2010, we started to understand that our product goes to international market and that we have to have international team that creates that product because we have to understand US market, we have to kind of live it. So we decided that we'll employ foreign people in Slovenia. And do you know how long did it take to employ a very high qualified foreigner? I'll tell you. This is Sam. He's awesome. Like, he's really awesome software engineer. And he's helping us open up Zemanta. And we needed to take some risks when we were getting him. Like, we only interviewed him via Skype for a couple of times. And he needed to take some risks. Like, he was coming in a country where he never was before after talking to some crazy people over Skype. And he said, like, yeah, like when he described what he would like to do, he said, I'd like to live in Europe for a couple of years, work there in a startup if possible, preferably in Barcelona or Paris. And we said, oh, no problem, you know, Ljubljana, that's like Eastern Paris. Come, live here. So he did. But unfortunately, then problems started. It took us 6 months to get all his papers in order. His work permit, his residency permit. And as a final piece of the puzzle that really upset me, he needed to finalize the process, to go to Trieste to give his fingerprint because we have so stupid laws that he couldn't do it in Ljubljana. Initially, they wanted us to ship him to Washington, D.C. So there at the Slovenian embassy in US, he would give the fingerprint and come back to Slovenia to work with us. And I mean, this trip is embodiment of how ridiculous this whole process is. But it does not stop there. So we were not the only ones with those experiences. I was reading RTV's Law web portal, and there a journalist said, like, at Slovenian foreigners office in Ljubljana, they don't speak foreign languages. And I said, okay, I read it, like, this must be a mistake. Come on. And I read the article, and the journalist actually called the ministry, and the official response of the ministry was, we're not obliged to actually, the public officials are not obliged to speak foreign languages. I mean, in general, but at foreigner's office, and I would understand if that response from the ministry would have also like, thank you for informing us about this problem, we'll do something about it, we'll change the criteria and we'll change, but no, we're doing everything by the law. And I think that's completely ridiculous, and not the picture from Sam with bananas that you haven't saw. And I believe the domestic crisis is caused by this mentality of needing the law for every single thing being closed up. This is that, like I cannot only complain. So what's the good news? The good news is that this is completely fixable problem. It gets even better. We don't need money to fix it, which is a really good thing in these times. And we need to start with ourselves. First, we need to convince ourselves that people coming here to work with us, to enjoy our culture, enrich our world and our culture. And we should let go the fear of somebody will assimilate us. And we should think about everything we do in international context. We need, and to do that, to have companies that compete internationally. Of course, we cannot just have Slovenians doing it because we don't understand the whole world. We need co-conspirators to come here and help us conquer the world. And we need to make it easy for them to come, and that will also make it easy for our brain drain to return, to start circulating. And we should have some goals. We should say, hey, university, 20% of all students and 20% of full professors by, let's say, 2020 should be foreigners. And companies, let's aim for foreigners to be our co-workers because we will be more successful on foreign markets. I mean, those worrisome economic numbers, the only bright point is actually Slovenian export. So we should really think hard of how we can adapt to improve on that export metric. And the government, why couldn't the government, now that we lack the vision, have the vision of opening up Slovenia? And I'd say let's get radical. I mean, I'm looking at the school system and Slovene and English and everything. And we're wondering why we don't have students here that are foreign. Well, we don't have them because we basically said we don't want them. We think we have to put everything into laws. And we say like, hey, the only language you can teach in higher education here is Slovene with a few very specialized exceptions. Well, my feeling is that those people teaching should be trusted with caring for the language, and we should not prevent them from inventing new solutions to the teaching, to the higher education. And I'm sure they will keep the language going in the national culture. And I don't believe that you can do that by laws, because they don't work. We persisted for thousands of years, and it will not help if we say that that Slovene is exclusive language here. The culture will persist no matter what the law says. And probably the economic crisis won't be solved by a golden rule or something like that. And the other goal, let's give residency permit for everybody that graduated from university that's higher ranked than Ljubljana University, and let's have a goal of doing it in 1 month, not 6 months, and a bit more to be true. But most importantly, those are the things that we want the government, our representatives to do. We have to start with ourselves. Next coworker you will be looking for. Will you be the one that will say, hey, this job opening is only in Slovene language? Why don't I translate it and post it in some international job board? The next company you will be starting, will you think only about local Slovenian market, or you'll initially go for the world? And next event you'll be organizing, will you make it so no one that's not from this specific culture and language will be able to attend? Or will you think, hey, we're adults, we can speak English? And how big will you aim for? And eventually, if we do these things, if we basically say, hey, here in Slovenia, we've been bilingual or trilingual for thousands of years with all the languages around. We have nothing against having some governmental forms in English and governmental representatives speaking English and professor maybe teaching in English. Eventually then, if we do that in a couple of years, we might not be ashamed of our statesmen and stateswomen when they present in front of international audience, because they will be able to create comprehensible sentences that somebody will understand. And we'll be talking about brain circulation, not about brain drain. And I believe our national identity for that will be stronger because we will be more confident on international space than we are now, not weaker. And what do we get? We get at home international, vibrant community. We get participation in interesting debates, solving problems that matter to the whole world. And we have a place then where even the best can fulfill their potential. And we won't even need to convince people that even in Slovenia you can be the best and from Slovenia. And I think this Mark's presentation is really great. And this is needed right now. But we should strive for not needing to convince anybody, because we'll look around and see excellence and see smartest people around the world. And I think that's possible. But I'm sure speaking in English and talking that we should open up, we should cross the law that the only language of education is English, I haven't won everybody of you over. I'm sure some people still believe that we should maybe go back and everything can be as it was. I don't think that's the case. While Stara Pravda is a very interesting phrase, I don't know if you know, it's the first printed words of Slovene language ever, before Trubar, 1515, in a German poem about peasant resistance in Slovenia. And that was 500 years ago, and I think we should look in the future and not look how to recreate what was. And to finish, I think that Slovenia was accepted by the world. We entered United Nations, European Union, OECD. Now, it's the time that Slovenia accepts the world, not just world Slovenia. So I challenge you, next time when you are organizing an event and your research team at university is looking for a coworker and you're creating a new company, think bigger and international. And I'm sure that with opening up Slovenia, brighter future will come. Thank you.